And welcome to the Homeschooling One Child podcast and YouTube channel. I have with me today a phenomenal young woman who is doing all the planning stuff for special needs. And but before we go into that chat, I just would like to encourage you to hit that subscribe button or and ring that bell for the notifications. And if you're on the podcast, just if you want to, just hop over to homeschoolingonechild.com and check out the website. But without further ado, this is Amanda Schenkenberger.
Good job.
Is
Well
that
done,
it?
Schenkenberger. You did it.
Schenkenberger. I channeled my inner German there. That little tiny 1.5% German I have. She is a former homeschooled kid and now homeschools her 4 boys. God bless you. She's a homeschool coach with a program that helps parents strategically use homeschooling to create their family legacy. I love that. And she teaches parents how to calm the chaos, create a schedule, and build strong bonds. Amanda is a certified life coach, mental health practitioner, and executive functions expert with the Seeing My Time program. It helps students and adults, which is very important, develop and support their executive functioning skills. She shares a lot about communication, SEL, and emotional masteries, all in a homeschooling context. Amanda, welcome to the program today. Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me, Terrie. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. Well, first of all, what is SEL?
Oh, SEL. So that is social emotional learning. And
Okay.
it's typically focused on kids in the early elementary years, even in toddlerhood. And so it's about equipping them with language to describe their feelings and to help them calm down and emotionally regulate. So SEL specifically is for the younger children.
Okay, great. Yeah, I didn't really know what that was. I've heard of social emotional learning, but not the acronym. But
Yeah.
and I knew I wasn't the only one in the world to not know that. But tell us about the Seeing My Time program and how that could help parents and
Yeah.
kids.
Go ahead.
And parents and kids.
Parents and kids, yeah. So I've been working with homeschool families for a little while, and something that I've noticed is that mom and kids, we often struggle with the same things, and apples
Yes.
don't fall too far from
Right.
the tree. And so I've talked to so many moms with children who are neurodivergent. And as they see these tendencies come up in their children, they're beginning for the very first time to recognize these same tendencies in themselves. And so while that's great awareness to have, you also at the same time feel a little disempowered because you're like, you struggle, for example, with executive functions. You struggle with like the passing of time, and I struggle with the passing of time. How do I help both of us
Right.
with understanding time or staying on a schedule or in like our working memory? How do I help both of us, because we both need help in this area?
Yes.
And so the Seeing My Time program, what it does is literally that. It helps you to see your time, and through different ways to support yourself through the use of timers, paper planners, finding open space in your schedule, and primarily actually through education is where we start, helping you understand your specific brain.
Right.
Seeing where maybe you have a struggle that might differ from your child, or it might be exactly the same, because there's a lot of different skills within executive functioning, and we want to do what supports you to help you achieve what you want to through homeschooling.
Right. Great. So it's not just a program for like parents and kids who have autism. It's sensory processing, it's ADHD, it's just people who struggle with planning,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
we
and
can,
it could be for any, like, you might not even have, a learning difference and you struggle
right,
with planning. And a
sure,
lot of the tips and the tricks in here and the tools that will support you will help you. So it's not like oh, well, I don't have ADHD. That isn't for me. Well, if you
right.
struggle with planning, then it still might be a great fit for you.
Yes, yes. My husband is a logistics professional.
Okay.
So he is big into planning and lists and calendars and all this. And I aspire to that. I aspire to that. I'm not there, but I've recently realized that some of the traits that my children have who all have special needs, all of them have ADHD, um, some more than others. Um, all those traits are in me too. And so I really struggle with, you know, let me back up. When you have a special needs kid or more than one, you like, you find yourself saying, well, that's familiar. Maybe I have that. And so, if you could give parents like 5 good tips on how to create a schedule and calm the chaos in their homes, what would you tell them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple different kinds of chaos, right? We
Yes.
have, depending on the ages of your children, they might like just be these little tornadoes running around the house.
Right.
So there's this outward chaos that wonderful young children bring into your life. And so in that sort of case, structure is needed
Yes. Yes.
for the learning and just for the day. And so thinking about how to help you create a structure and a flow to your day, because children really thrive in predictability.
Hmm.
Something that's consistent, something that they understand. Okay, we start this way, this is what comes next, and there's a flow to how we do things.
Right.
That's especially important to them, since especially in the younger years, they do not feel the passage of time.
Right.
It's completely different. And as they get older, if they have executive function deficits or learning differences, they
Hmm.
might not ever feel that passage of time the way a typical person does.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so if there's like you're constantly late or putting things in the wrong place, losing them, or um you hop from one thing to the next thing, like what's right in front of you, right?
Right.
That can create that chaos in your life. So whether we're talking about young children or managing your own mind, structure for your own mind, maybe that chaos is happening inside your emotions,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so and this is something I learned about myself. For a while I dealt with high functioning anxiety, which
Yes.
means everything's nice and glossy on the outside. I look very well put together, but I'm dying on the inside.
Yes. I
And
have that too.
and so
Yep.
if you came into our home at that time in my life, it's filled with yelling, and I call it my lava monster stage, and I have a whole thing about it. Um, but so sometimes chaos can be on the inside of us, and that kind of chaos that's emotional, and that
Okay.
is, if that's something that you're dealing with, you're not alone.
Right.
um that needs a different kind of structure and a tender care. But let's
Hmm.
go ahead and focus on the executive skills.
Right.
um Creating structure in your life. So one of the things is for homeschool moms, because we have a lot of important things to do, we have a lot
Yes.
of hats to
We have
wear,
a lot on
is
our plates.
we do. So it's really to create these blocks of time in your day where you're only focusing on that one thing.
Okay.
Especially if you deal with ADHD or ADD, you tend to do what's right in front of you.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, I see a mess here, I need to do this. When right now it's supposed to be your homeschooling time, and you should be at the table with the kids working through. Oh, and I remember we've got this appointment. Oh, guys, we got to get ready to go. Right.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Things can be disjointed. So when we start with blocking times of our day, like, okay, this is the time we get ready in the morning. And then, let's say between 8 and 9 o'clock, that's when we're making breakfast, having breakfast, cleaning up for breakfast. That way at 9 or 9:15, we're sitting down at the table with our books open, and we're actively working through homeschool.
Yes.
Depending on the ages that you have, you might want to take a break, get up, stretch, maybe do a little dance and song.
Right.
And maybe you wrap up around noon. Then you flow into lunch, right? And lunchtime has a structure, has a time frame. So I would, number one, begin by blocking out chunks of your day. And what you have to do is have some discipline.
Right.
And so you've got this chunk of time. This is homeschool time. I'm not going to do the dishes. I'm not going to go feed the chickens. I'm not going to start a brand new project. It is, unless there's an emergency,
Right.
Obviously we have emergencies pop up.
Yes.
I do not get up from this table until we're done with our homeschool block.
You described my life, even the chicken part.
Right? So this is what we do.
Yes.
And so things that will help you stay in that time block, your zone of time, is using things like timers.
Yes.
Right. And
Big
so
fan of timers.
Yes, I live on timers. One of my clients right now, she actually is a neighbor. And so I've been teaching her how to use timers for different things. And I had a timer go off on my phone, shouted at my kids, "We've got 5 minutes." And then timer went off again. "Okay, clean up. It's time to go." She's like, "You actually live what you teach." And I'm like, yes. Yes, I do.
And that's important. That's important for people to know. I mean, that you don't just talk to people and teach people how to do these things, but you live it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I personally have always had this gift of planning.
Okay.
And even I use these, right? We plan a lot into our day, and there are certain times we got to go, we got to get home, or we got to start this next thing so we can be here on time, right? So using timers can be really, really helpful.
Yes.
So blocking your day, using timers. And then the next thing I would do is think about your working memory, right? Think about your working memory as like this little table, right? And the typical working memory, like if you're an average person, you can hold 7 bits of data on that table. So, there used to be this idea that you could remember a phone number. Well, we don't have to do that anymore. We've got wonderful cell phones.
Right.
So thinking about how large is your working memory? And so thinking that means you have, if you lose a thought, right?
Right.
Okay, so something fell off my working memory table. So try to figure out, if you can, how many bits of information you can fit on there. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 5. But when you lose a bit of information off your table that was really valuable, that you needed, right? Like the thought popped out. When you notice that start happening, so tip 2, figure out how many things you can fit on your table. And then when you lose something off that little working memory table, have a system for yourself. Okay, there was something I was supposed to do when I was done with this. What was that?
Yes. Yes.
What was that? So welcome to my life. I use Post-it notes.
Yep.
I use Post-it notes, but if it was yeah, there you go. I could show you my wall is plastered in Post-it notes. I've got calendars, tracking information. So one of the other things you can do is go back to the spot you were just in. So like if you've been sitting there for an hour and you didn't write it down on a Post-it note and it went out of your brain, that happens.
Right.
But if you were, okay, I need to do this thing, and then somebody hollered, "Mom!"
Yeah.
Right? Because we have that come up. Oh my gosh, sounds like somebody's hurt. Maybe the chickens are out. There's so many things it could be. Yes. So there, you left that piece of information in the room that you were just in. So let's say you're like, oh, there was something I was supposed to do. I didn't have a chance to write it down. Go back to where that last place, to where you remembered that information. At this point, you are not trying to pull information off your working memory. It
Okay.
fell off. It's in the abyss. What
Yeah.
you are trying to do is access the visual part of your brain and get to like look for the thing you were looking at that reminded you of the thing you need to do.
Yes.
Because then we're pulling from our visual memory, not that working table. So
Right.
that's another little hack, especially if you have a small working memory table, or you tend to do what's right in front of you. Go back to that place and try accessing that information from a different part of your brain using visuals around the room to see if it can come back to you. So
Yes.
that's a little tip.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, and then finally, if this is something that's interfering with your daily life, right?
Right.
There is chaos all the time and you can't seem to get it under control, or you feel like your brain is a plate of spaghetti against the wall, right?
Yes. Yes. Preach.
If you are feeling like, and this is interrupting the function of your daily life, the quality of your homeschool, the neatness and quality of your home, or being able to have guests over, if it's interfering with your life, consider working with somebody who can equip you with tools and walk you step by step, hand in hand, through the
Right.
process of discovering which tools work best for you. And so
Okay.
that's where the Seeing My Time program comes in. We take 10 weeks to not only educate you on how your brain works, and really focusing on stripping away the shame,
Right.
right? If you show up late all the time, there's kind of like you hang your head, you're like, oh, I'm late
Yes.
again, there's a stigma to that.
Right.
Maybe you identify as a procrastinator, and you've been called lazy, right? There's a stigma to that. It
Yes.
doesn't feel good.
Right.
So educating you on, well, this is the way your brain works, and you're not like a bad person because
Right.
this is the way your brain works. You're not
Yes.
wrong or terrible, but let's help you function in society, with tools that will support
Yes.
you. So taking you through that process and helping you put life together in a way that works for you, that you can see your time. Okay, you have, let's say, your child has a project, like maybe you're participating in a science fair, right?
Right.
Well, you can't do the science project the day before.
Yes. Absolutely.
So helping you guys together break it down, working as a family,
Yes.
right? Break those kind of projects down. How do you do that? And how do
Right.
you do that in a way that makes sense for your brain and your child's brain? So
Right.
we teach you all these things that's going to support you, not just in daily life, but to really help you learn, your
Mhm.
children learn, and support them for their future success. Because, hey, maybe they really struggle with time, but they have the timer thing down and they
Right.
can get to places on time now because they understand what supports them.
Because kids often mimic and learn the things that we teach them. Well, we hope, we're homeschoolers, but that also is a double-edged sword because they can also learn these traits like poor time management, or um, learning how to make their own brains a plate of spaghetti, you
Yeah.
know, but they learn everything. They're little sponges from us, good and bad. It's not just learning about what made the Roman Empire fall, but it's also, you know, being terminally late to everything because you can't find your car keys.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that if you help the parents succeed with um, the Seeing My Time program and social emotional learning and all this stuff, that will trickle down to the kids too. You're not just helping the kids, because if you just help the kids who have executive functioning skills, but you don't help the parents who also have not executive functioning, they don't have that. then you're not really helping the family.
Yeah.
But, and it, yeah, that's amazing. What, what is it particularly about homeschooling that why we need executive functioning skills?
Yeah. So what about homeschooling? So it's apparent as the facilitator of homeschooling,
Yes.
right? Because again, we wear so many hats,
Right.
and in structuring our day in a way that we can get it all done. And sometimes we have really unrealistic expectations for ourselves. So
Yes.
it's also a cutting away of some of that stuff to
Yes.
create space for learning, for connection, for maybe just regulating yourself
Right.
emotionally, right? So executive function skills are exceptionally important for mom or dad, who's ever doing the main bulk of the homeschooling.
Right. Sure.
Um, to create consistency for the kids,
Yes.
not just a consistent schedule, but progress in
Yes.
key areas, right? If we only do math every couple weeks, how are they progressing? How are they
Right.
building those skills? Um, so it's exceptionally important for who is usually mom,
Yeah.
to create and foster a loving learning environment, not a chaotic one.
Yes.
But for kids, as they start getting older, and I will say the Seeing My Time program, it's for families, and it's best for kids starting in about fifth grade. So about
Okay.
10 or 11. Before that, we have different things we can do for the younger children, but typically there's not a lot of independent learning happening there. They wouldn't be doing a project all by themselves,
Right.
which is another reason why mom needs to be able to be structured to help the little ones create the projects, you know.
Yes.
But thinking from a child's perspective, as they get older, right, and they have that shift, that tween teen shift, where you're no longer the sage on the sage,
Yes.
You want to be the guide on the side,
Right. I
right?
love that.
Yeah. And so you start giving them responsibilities because they are able, because they can contribute, right? You want to start
Right.
building them up and building those skills right away. So starting at this age, giving them the ability to test out those skills to see, like, oh, maybe you have a low working memory, or maybe you don't understand, like, you don't know what it means to think about your thinking. That's a
Right.
very abstract concept.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
and so teaching them that what thinking about your thinking is actually called metacognition. So teaching them about metacognition, because that will change a person's life, whether you
Yes.
have executive functioning skills or not. That learning to think about your thinking is a game changer.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, that's something I've been teaching for years. It's something that changed my life. But
Think
it
about
is
your
really
thinking.
key in the executive functioning skills. So it's about student wise equipping them for success in their life. And I think as homeschoolers, we want our kids to be passion driven and have careers that
Yes.
that they love, right?
Yes.
And we want them to get started early and get ahead and be unique and bring that new aspect to whatever it is that they're passionate about.
Right.
Um, but in order for them to actually make a difference from an early age, which they are 100% capable of doing,
Yes.
they need to be able to manage themselves well, manage their time well, manage their schedule. Otherwise, people will just chalk it up. Oh, they're just
Right.
young. They don't have anything to offer. So we
Yes.
want to equip them as early as we can to excel in managing their time.
Absolutely. Well, Amanda, this has been amazing. You've given me a lot to think about, not just for homeschoolers and how I can help my audience with this, but me personally and my family and my daughter who I'm homeschooling. Um, we've run out of time for this podcast. It's just been so fast and so awesome. But I definitely want to have you back on to talk about specifically think about your thinking. I think
Mm.
that's a whole podcast in itself.
Absolutely, it is. It's a lot.
I mean, if you can change a person's life, with just think about what you think and think about how you think and how to use that, that changes a person's whole dynamic, their whole life. But thank you so much for being on today. And if you, let me get my cheat sheet here. Go to homeschoolfamilylegacy.com if you want to learn more about Amanda and the Seeing My Time program and just everything that they offer over at homeschoolfamilylegacy.com. And I appreciate you being on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us today on the homeschoolingonechild.com podcast and YouTube channel. Again, if you would, I'd appreciate it if you would just hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell for notifications. If you're on the YouTube channel, and if you're on the podcast or YouTube channel, please check us out at homeschooling1child.com, homeschooling1child.com. And just for your information, the Homeschooling Special Needs Expo is going to be coming to the LeGrand Center in Shelby, North Carolina on June 28th and 29th of 2024. This incredible convention is for homeschoolers who are homeschooling their children of all ages with special needs, whether that's autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, anything. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have quite a little over 50 different educational sessions, plus an exhibit hall, sensory room. It's going to be amazing. So I'm going to put the link to that down below. Just please check that out and be sure you register for it. It's going to be an affordable convention just for homeschooling special needs. It's the first one in the nation. And I'm excited about it. So check that out. All the information's down below. Thank you so much.